stories. And now, let's begin this one. The desert sand still clung to Bryce Harlow's boots as he approached his suburban home. After 15 months in a classified location, conducting operations too sensitive to discuss, all he wanted was to hold his twin 6-year-olds and kiss his wife. The yellow ribbons he'd expected to see adorning the oak tree in their front yard were conspicuously absent. The house looked different. New curtains, different doormat, a stranger's sedan in the driveway, alongside Lena's SUV. He used his key, but the locks had been changed. So he knocked, shifting the small gifts for his children from one hand to the other. The door swung open. Lena stood there, not with joy, but with contempt in her eyes. Behind her, a tall man with a CrossFit physique and designer clothes lounged on his couch. The twins peeked from behind the stranger's legs. "Daddy," Mia said tentatively. The man placed his hand on Mason's shoulder. "Kids, go to your rooms." And they obeyed him, without question. What the hell is this? Bryce kept his voice measured, years of operational discipline preventing the explosion building inside him. Lena's smile was venomous. She disappeared momentarily, returning with a garbage bag that she thrust into his chest. His uniform tumbled out, ribbons and insignias tossed carelessly among the fabric. "We replaced you," she spat. "The kids call him Dad now. Sign the papers, loser." The stranger, Dallas Pierce, according to the Rolex on his wrist, smirked. "Your deployment was the best thing that ever happened to this family." Bryce looked between them, then at the divorce papers Lena was now holding out. "Wrong move," he said quietly. Dallas laughed. "What are you going to do, soldier boy? I make more in a month than you do in a year. My uncle's the judge who'll handle your divorce. And those kids? Already forget your name." Bryce turned without another word, collected his uniform from the ground, and walked away. In his car, he made one call. "Talon, it's Sentinel. I need to activate Contingency Protocol 7. The voice on the other end paused. "You sure? That's extreme." "They took my kids," Bryce replied, "and they have no idea who they're dealing with." Few knew that Bryce wasn't just any soldier. As Sentinel, he commanded an elite intelligence unit that operated in the shadows of global conflicts. Only his superior, General Franklin Talon Reynolds, knew the full extent of his capabilities. Before joining the military, Bryce had been a prodigy at MIT, specializing in data architecture and cybersecurity. The military had honed those skills into something lethal. For 15 years, he had built a network of operatives, hackers, and strategists who owed him favors. People who could make lives disappear with keystrokes or create new ones just as easily. Lena had met Bryce when he was between deployments, teaching at the War College. She'd been dazzled by his quiet confidence, never realizing that the gentle professor persona concealed something far more dangerous. She believed she'd married a mid-level intelligence officer, not the architect of operations that toppled regimes. Dallas Pierce was the nephew of Superior Court Judge Randall Pierce. His family owned Pierce Development Group, a real estate empire built on political connections and questionable dealings. Dallas had met Lena at a charity gala 8 months into Bryce's deployment. His wealth and attention had turned her head, and she'd quickly decided that the comfortable suburban life Bryce provided wasn't enough. What she never knew, Bryce could have given her anything. His modest lifestyle was a choice, not a limitation. The college fund for the twins was actually a trust worth millions, money he'd been quietly investing for years. As Bryce drove away from the house, he wasn't broken. He was calculating. 12 hours after Bryce's departure, Dallas received a call at his office. His face drained of color as he listened. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded. "How could you do that with them?" On the other end, a distorted voice played a recording, Dallas discussing a private real estate deal with a Saudi investor, detailing how they would circumvent federal regulations. The voice then listed the names of Dallas's offshore accounts, their balances, and the exact nature of several questionable transactions. "Your uncle's judicial misconduct file makes interesting reading too," the voice added, "especially the sealed cases involving minors." Dallas's hands shook as he ended the call. "That fucking soldier," he muttered. He rushed to Lena's house, finding her in tears. "He's taking the kids," she sobbed, waving court documents. "Emergency custody," Hearing tomorrow. Judge Abernathy presiding, not Randall. Impossible, Dallas snarled. My uncle controls family court assignments. Not anymore, Lena said. He's been temporarily suspended pending an ethics investigation. The next morning, they arrived at court to find Bryce waiting calmly, accompanied by a stern-looking woman in an impeccable suit. Nancy Whitfield, she introduced herself. Mr. Harlow's attorney. What Lena and Dallas didn't know. Nancy was former JAG Corps and had worked with Bryce on classified operations involving international custody disputes. Judge Abernathy entered, reviewed the file, and frowned. Mrs. Harlow, this court has received evidence that while your husband was deployed on classified operations serving his country, you denied him communication with his children, falsely told them he had abandoned them, and exposed them to an unstable living situation. Lena gasped. That's not true. We have the text messages where you told Mr. Harlow not to call again because the kids have a real father now. We have witness statements from neighbors detailing Mr. Pierce's regular overnight stays. We have school records showing the children's declining academic performance and concerning behavioral notes following your relationship with Mr. Pierce. Dallas leaned forward. Your Honor, my uncle. Mr. Pierce, I suggest you remain silent. The judge cut him off. Your presence here is inappropriate, and mentioning your familial connections to another judge could be construed as an attempt to influence this court. The judge granted Bryce temporary full custody, with Lena receiving supervised visitation pending a full hearing. Outside the courthouse, Dallas grabbed Bryce's arm. This isn't over. Do you have any idea who my family is? Bryce smiled thinly. I know exactly who you are, Dallas. The question is whether you know who I am. That night, Dallas's world began to unravel. The Securities and Exchange Commission announced an investigation into Pierce Development Group. His access to company accounts was suspended. His credit cards were declined. His picture appeared in a local blog, linking him to several development projects that had displaced low-income families. Meanwhile, Lena discovered her bank accounts frozen, her credit score plummeting, and her nursing license under review for administrative irregularities. They fought back. Dallas used family connections to pressure the judge. Lena filed counterclaims alleging Bryce was mentally unstable from combat trauma. They hired a private investigator to dig into Bryce's past. The PI disappeared for 3 days. When he resurfaced, he refused to continue the investigation and moved to another state. 2 weeks later, Dallas received another call. Stop, Bryce said simply. Or what? Dallas challenged. Or I release everything. Not just the business dealings. The videos from your Lake Tahoe trips. The messages to the congressman's daughter. Everything. Dallas swallowed hard. What do you want? Leave my family alone. Permanently. Dallas agreed, then immediately called Lena. We need to hit him harder. Find something, anything we can use. What they didn't know, every call, every message, every plan they made was being monitored. Bryce wasn't just defending. He was gathering ammunition. Lena found what she thought was leverage. Medical records suggesting Bryce had received psychiatric treatment. She and Dallas planned to use this to argue he was unfit for custody. The night before the final custody hearing, they celebrated their impending victory at Dallas's penthouse. The doorbell rang. A courier delivered an unmarked package containing a single USB drive. Curious, Dallas plugged it into his laptop. The screen displayed a message. You should have stopped. Then came the videos. Dallas with known criminals. Judge Pierce accepting bribes. Lena stealing prescription medications from the hospital where she worked. All meticulously documented, time-stamped, and annotated. The final file was different. Surveillance footage from their own celebration that evening, filmed just minutes earlier from inside the penthouse. Someone had been watching them all along. Dallas's phone rang. Who the hell are you? He demanded again, voice trembling. You still don't understand, Bryce replied calmly. I don't just gather intelligence. I create consequences. He explained that copies of all evidence have been sent to federal prosecutors, ethics committees, licensing boards, and media outlets, set to release automatically in 24 hours. Unless, Dallas asked desperately, Lena signs away all parental rights. You resign from Pierce Development and leave the state. Your uncle announces early retirement. Complete disconnection from my children's lives. That's everything we have, Lena protested. You should have thought of that before throwing away everything I gave you, Bryce replied. You have until morning. They capitulated. What choice did they have? The evidence was overwhelming, all of it gathered through Bryce's network of specialists, former intelligence operatives, cyber experts, and surveillance professionals who operated in legal gray areas. The next day, Lena signed away her parental rights with tears streaming down her face. The kids will hate you for this, she hissed. No, Bryce replied. They'll never know what you did. As far as they'll understand, you chose your new life over them. I won't poison them against you. Your actions have done that already. Within a week, Dallas had resigned and moved to the opposite coast. Judge Pierce announced his retirement, citing health concerns. Lena, stripped of her nursing license, took a minimum wage job in another city. 3 months later, Bryce sat in General Reynolds' office. Was it worth it? The general asked. They're safe, Bryce replied. That's all that matters. And the methods? The surveillance? The blackmail? Bryce's expression hardened. They started this by targeting my family. I simply finished it. You destroyed them, Reynolds observed. No, Bryce corrected. I gave them exactly the consequences their actions deserved. They betrayed the wrong man. On his drive home, Bryce called his children. Hey, monsters, what do you want for dinner tonight? Their cheerful voices filled the car as he smiled for the first time in months. His home was his again. His children were safe. The people who had tried to take everything from him had learned a painful lesson about the man they had underestimated. They had made the wrong move against a man who had spent his career anticipating and countering the wrong moves of others. A man who never forgave betrayal. A man who protected what was his. With precision. With patience. Without mercy.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.